Patrick here with Patrick Henry's Red Hill, helping to answer the question, who was Patrick Henry? Well, Patrick Henry was a man who loved music, and music was something that was part of his life. From his childhood, we know that he learned how to play the violin as well as the flute. Um, we don't know if he had any lessons or was tutored by anybody, but we do know that Samuel Meredith, who was a childhood friend and ultimately became his brother-in-law when Samuel married Patrick's sister Jane. Um, but we know that Samuel tells us that Patrick was very good at the violin, and he also tells us that it was around the age of 12 when Patrick Henry had broken his collarbone somehow that he had figured out a way to hold a flute and to learn how to play. So we don't really know where he obtained the flute from. We don't know necessarily where he obtained a violin from, but we know that he played and became quite good at both of those. Both of those items are actually on display at Patrick Henry's Red Hill. He went on to continue his playing and did it purely for enjoyment. Would play maybe at some private parties or it wasn't like he was a professional fiddle player, but he would entertain people. His cousin William Overton Winston tells us that when he worked at the tavern that was owned and operated by his father-in-law, John Shelton, that he would often entertain guests with his fiddle. And then later in life, visitors recollect that they would arrive at Red Hill to visit Patrick, and he would oftentimes be on the ground with kids crawling all over him. And the major goal was to see who could make the most noise. And I'm sure there were often times where the fiddle was a part of that as well. And then on a little bit more different occasions, I guess I should say, on Sunday nights, Patrick would often gather the family around at Red Hill and read the sermons of Reverend Thomas Sherlock. Now, Reverend Thomas Sherlock was an Anglican minister. He passed away in the 1760s, but the sermons of Reverend Sherlock meant a lot to Patrick, and they did a lot to affirm his Christian faith. And so he made it a point to read sermons from Sherlock to his family every Sunday night. And following that, they would be gathered around and they would sing hymns. And once again, Patrick Henry would bring out the violin and accompany the family on his violin as they sung hymns. So from an early age up till the very end, music was a part of Patrick Henry's life, and the violin was a part of his life. And again, Patrick Henry's actual violin is on display down at Red Hill. I had the privilege of playing it on the 200th anniversary of his passing back in June of 1999. And what an honor that was to scratch out a version of Amazing Grace on Patrick Henry's actual fiddle. So again, I hope that answers your question. For those of you who have questions, please feel free to leave them in the comment box, and I'll do my best to get to those. Again, this is Patrick with Patrick Henry's Red Hill, hoping to answer that question, who was Patrick Henry? Thank you.